Welcome to the Unraveling the Scriptures channel. You've probably heard about Islam and Muslims before. But what exactly is the origin and history behind the Islamic faith? The faith of the Arab people, which also encompasses various other nations and people adhering to Islam, is one of the largest religions in the world. However, few people fully understand its origins. In this video, I'll explore its origins, its history, and much more. So, please leave your likes, your comments, and subscribe to the channel. The history and origin of Islam, the religion of Muhammad, what they never told you about it. Islam, in Arabic al-Islamiyya, means submission, in the sense of submitting to the will of God. It is an Abrahamic monotheistic religion centered on the Quran and the teachings of Muhammad, considered the religion's founder. Followers of Islam are collectively called Muslims, and their population is estimated at around 1.9 billion people worldwide, making it the second largest global religion, behind only Christianity. Muslims believe that Islam is the complete and universal version of a primordial faith revealed many times through previous prophets and messengers, including Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus Christ. For Muslims, the Quran is the literal word of God and the final, unaltered revelation. Besides the Quran, they also believe in previous revelations such as the Torah, the Zabur, Psalms, and the Injil, Gospel. Muhammad is considered the primary and final prophet in Islam. Islam, through which the religion was completed, is based on the normative teachings and examples of Muhammad, referred to as the Sunnah, documented in reports known as Hadith. These teachings provide a constitutional model for Muslims. Islam emphasizes that God is unique and incomparable and asserts that there will be a final judgment, where the righteous will be rewarded in paradise, Jannah, and the unjust will be punished in hell, Jahannam. The 5 pillars of Islam, considered obligatory acts of worship, include the declaration of faith, Shahada, daily prayers, Salah, almsgiving, Zakat, fasting, Psalm, during the month of Ramadan, and pilgrimage, Hajj, to the city of Mecca. Islamic law, known as Sharia, encompasses virtually all aspects of life, from finance and welfare to the roles of men and women and the environment. The 2 major religious festivals in Islam are Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. The 3 holiest sites in Islam, in descending order, are Masjid al-Haram in Mecca, al-Masjid an-Nabawi in Medina, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. The Islamic religion originated in Mecca in the year 610 CE. Muslims believe it was during this time that Muhammad received his first revelation. By the time of his death, most of the Arabian Peninsula had converted to Islam. Muslim rule expanded beyond Arabia under the Rashidun Caliphate and the subsequent Umayyad Caliphate, which ruled from the Iberian Peninsula to the Indus Valley. During the Islamic Golden Age, particularly under the Abbasid Caliphate, much of the Muslim world experienced a scientific, economic, and cultural flourishing. The expansion of the Muslim world involved various states and caliphates, as well as extensive trade and religious conversion, resulting from Islamic missionary activities, known as dawah, and also through conquests, imperialism, and colonialism. It is important to note that the 2 major branches of Islam are Sunni Islam, comprising 85 to 90%, and Shia Islam, accounting for 10 to 15%. Although the division between Shia and Sunni initially arose due to disagreements over Muhammad's succession, it has grown to encompass broader theological and juridical dimensions. Muslims represent the majority of the population in about 49 countries. Approximately 12% of the world's Muslims live in Indonesia, the most populous Muslim-majority country. About 31% live in South Asia, 20% in the Middle East and North Africa, also known as the Maghreb, and 15% live in Sub-Saharan Africa. Muslim communities are also present in the Americas, China, and Europe. Due to the high proportion of youth and the high fertility rate, Muslims are currently the fastest-growing religious group in the world. As for the etymology of the term Islam, in Arabic, Islam means submission to God, being a verbal noun derived from the verb aslama, from the triliteral root slama. This root is mainly related to concepts of submission, security, and peace. In fact, Slama basically means peace in Arabic, similar to shalom in Hebrew and shalma in Aramaic. In the religious context, the term Islam refers to total surrender to the will of God. A Muslim, in turn, is someone who follows Islam, being the active participle of the same verbal form and meaning, submissive to God, or one who surrenders to God. In the Hadith of Gabriel, Islam is presented as part of a triad that also includes Iman, faith, and Ihsan, excellence. Islam itself was historically referred to as Mohammedanism in the English-speaking world, but this term has fallen out of use. Speaking a bit about the history of Islam, Muhammad and the birth of Islam occurred between 570 and 632 CE. According to Islamic tradition, Muhammad was born in Mecca in 570 CE and was orphaned at a young age. Growing up as a merchant, he became known as the trustworthy Arab and was sought after as an impartial arbitrator. Later, he married his employer and businesswoman, Khadija. In the year 610 CE, troubled by the moral decline and prevalent idolatry in Mecca, and seeking seclusion and spiritual contemplation, Muhammad withdrew to the cave of Hira, on the mountain of Jabal al-Nur, near Mecca. It was during his time in the cave that he would have received the first revelation of the Quran from the angel Gabriel. The event of Muhammad's withdrawal to the cave and the subsequent revelation are known as the Night of Power, Laylat al-Qadr, in Arabic, and they are considered significant events in Islamic history. During the next 22 years of his life, starting from the age of 40, Muhammad continued to receive revelations from God, becoming the last or seal of the prophets sent to humanity, according to Islam. During this period, while in Mecca, Muhammad first preached in secret and then publicly, urging his listeners to abandon polytheism and idolatry and worship only one God. Many of the early converts to Islam were women, the poor, foreigners, and slaves, such as the first muezzin, Bilal ibn Rabah. The elite of Mecca felt that Muhammad was destabilizing their social order by preaching about a single God and offering questionable ideas to the poor and slaves, who previously profited from pilgrimages to the idols of the Kaaba. After 12 years of persecution of Muslims by the inhabitants of Mecca, Muhammad and his companions performed the Hijra, or migration, in 622 to the city of Yathrib, now known as Medina. There, along with the converts from Medina, the Ansar, and the migrants from Mecca, the Muhajirin, Muhammad established his political and religious authority. The Constitution of Medina was signed by all the tribes of Medina, establishing religious freedoms, freedom to use their own laws among Muslim and non-Muslim communities, as well as an agreement to defend Medina from external threats. The forces of Mecca and their allies were defeated by the Muslims at the Battle of Badr in 624, and then fought an inconclusive battle at the Battle of Uhud, before unsuccessfully besieging Medina at the Battle of the Trench in March or April 627. In 628, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah was signed between Mecca and the Muslims but was broken by Mecca 2 years later. As more tribes converted to Islam, Mecca's trade routes were cut off by the Muslims. In 629, Muhammad was victorious in the nearly bloodless conquest of Mecca, and by the time of his death in 632 at the age of 62, he had united the tribes of Arabia into a single religious government. Basically, this is the origin and history of Islam, according to Islam itself. Now, some additional information to distinguish the similarities and main differences between Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. We'll start with the main differences between Judaism and Islam. Firstly, in Islam, Muslims believe it was Ishmael who was nearly sacrificed on Mount Moriah, not Isaac. Interestingly, Jews interpret differently, even in older texts, which claim it to be Isaac and not Ishmael. This difference in Islamic and Jewish thought is significant, though often not mentioned. Another important difference is that Jews do not recognize Jesus as a prophet, unlike Muslims, who believe Jesus was a prophet of God. Jews regard Jesus as a false prophet, whereas Muslims and Islamic faith recognize him as a divine messenger. These differences highlight the distinct interpretations and beliefs between Judaism and Islam, although they both share some similarities and historical roots. Now, speaking about the differences between Islam and Christianity, interestingly, Muslims also believe in Jesus as a messenger, a prophet of God, but not as the Son of God or God incarnate, as per traditional Christian view. Another difference lies in the belief about the death of Jesus. While in Christianity it is believed that Jesus died on the cross, in Islam, the belief is that Jesus did not die on the cross but was taken up to heaven at the moment of crucifixion, with his body swapped for that of Judas Iscariot. The similarities between Christianity and Islam include the belief that Jesus is the Messiah, that he will return and face the Antichrist, known as Dajjal in Arabic, and confront Iblis, and that he will emerge victorious from these confrontations, similar to the apocalyptic context of Jesus' return in Christianity, where he confronts and defeats the Antichrist with the breath of his mouth. Despite these similarities, there are many other differences between Christianity and Islam, as well as between Judaism. Although they share Abrahamic roots, the interpretations of these religions differ considerably. I hope you enjoyed this video about the origin and history of Islam. Leave in the comments what you already knew about the Islamic faith, and you can suggest topics for future videos. May God bless you and see you soon.